morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women Racing to Win. We have Daniel Zeri from Racers, the girls behind the helmet, and we also have Julia for Moto E reporting as well. So we have everyone here today. Encourage everyone to participate in the chat room. We got a lot to talk about. We'll start with Daniel, DTM Racing over across the pond from us here in the United States.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone, and good morning from everyone in the US. As you said, the DTM weekend in Assen in the Netherlands, it turned out to be quite an historic one for the ladies of the DTM. Of course, we know that both Sophia Flörsch and Esme Oki are racing in the series for the first time this year. They're making the debut in GT3 racing. It's been quite a challenging debut for Sophia since now. Of course, she is switching from single seaters, which is really never an easy transition. But she is of course developing. She's doing pretty well, and also Esme Hockey has particularly done well in qualifying. She had done pretty good in qualifying so far, and also came a little bit closer to the points. She had two P11 finishes in the previous race weekends. Now it was the Netherlands race, and for Esme is a little bit of a home race because Esme's mother is Dutch, so it was a little bit of a home race for Esme. And Sophia also was coming back to DTM after the Red Bull Ring round in 2 weeks ago. And actually, the first race was the best one for both of them. They qualified in P19 for Sophia and P21 for Esme. So after she had an engine issue in qualifying, so not the best of qualifying for both of them, but really they had an amazing first race. They both recovered a lot of positions. For Sophia, it was the best movers of the race, and she finished the P9 after a really impressive race when it was a little bit messy from the guys in front. There was a little bit of a contact in at the start when the field bunched up at the green flag. Of course, they're doing not a standing start, so the first row had a little bit of an hesitation, and so there were some contacts. Sophia really kept her nose clean, really had a trouble-free race in the first one on Saturday, and finished P9, which actually brought her a lot more points. She had 6 points now in the championship because there are two guest drivers. One is Christian Klein, a former Formula One driver, who's racing for McLaren. He's not competing in the full season, only in a partial campaign, so he's not eligible to score points. And also the other one was the Lamborghini of Mirko Bortolotti, really good driver from switching over from the ADAC GT Masters in a guest appearance. So those two drivers not getting points actually brought up Sophia to with 6 points, even though she finished P9. And also Esme Hockey had a pretty good race, even though Sophia and Esme had a contact in the opening stages of the race. Which was a little bit unfortunate, and Esme had a spin in the first lap, so she kind of had to recover in the final stage of the race, but came home in P11. A lot of position gained also for Esme, and also due to the two guest drivers, she also got 2 points. So it was the first time that two female drivers scored points in DTM. Of course, Ellen Lohr, real legendary female racer in 1992, got a race win, so that's still unbeaten. But Rahel Frey was the last female driver to score points in DTM, and that was in 2012. So it was quite a long time that a female driver didn't score points in DTM, and finally we did get that in Assen last weekend. Race 2 was a little bit more unfortunate for both of Sophia and Esme. Esme had a tire failure on the opening lap, and unfortunately she had to retire after that. Sophia came home in P17, so not as good as the first one, but still the results stand from Saturday, and that was an historic one.
A historic weekend from Saturday, very exciting, of course. And when it comes to Saturday, of course, a lot of folks were talking about the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol. Well, started on that past Thursday, we had Cup Truck Series racing at Bristol. And of course, with the Truck Series, Two drivers that are always competing each and every week are Jennifer Jo Cobb and Haley Deegan. We'll start with Jennifer Jo Cobb. She's not exactly having the best season. Of course, small team, lacking the resources of some of the bigger teams, and without qualifying, it's usually towards the back. She had to start 36 out of 40 truck field in Bristol, Tennessee. That just means within the first 10 laps, the leaders are already in lap traffic, trying to put drivers a lap down. Overall, though, we saw Jennifer Jo Cobb show what she can do. Because in Bristol, you don't have the horsepower disadvantage or the aerodynamic disadvantage as you do in the mile-and-a-half ovals. And we saw her moving up the field throughout the night. At the end, she did finish essentially 27th place, completed 188 laps out of 200 for this race. Now, what's significant? That 188 laps has the same number of laps Haley Deegan competed, and Haley Deegan was just two positions ahead of her in 25th position. She started 23rd again, of course, no qualifying. So for her, it's just a combination of where you are in the points, your last race results, and fastest speed. So she was 23rd, just was not really able to make much forward progress when it came to Bristol Motor Speedway and finishing ahead, dropping down two positions, 25th. For both of them to finish with 188 laps logged in out of the 200, that has to be essentially a big win because it's only a short oval, but a lot of banking. So what happens is you see 15-second lap times. If your truck's handling great, you're going to go towards the front. If it's not handling and you cannot make the grooves work, there was essentially pretty much two grooves. The bottom groove that we know about in Bristol and a little bit of a middle groove. It wasn't as defined as we saw in Saturday's race, but especially since the Truck Series were the first one out, everyone's trying to get that bottom groove. A lot of beating and banging, and overall, some exciting racing. And for both Haley Deegan, Jennifer Jo Cobb, of course, they're going to compete the rest of the NASCAR Truck Series season. The Truck Series are in the playoffs right now. Neither one of those drivers are in the playoffs. But overall, 17 trucks completed all 200 laps. So a small group in the lead lap. It was the UNOH 200 presented by Ohio Logistics at Bristol, Tennessee, where both drivers got to compete in. And we'll see them at the next race for the Truck Series. And next year's Daniel with ELMS at Spa.
Of course, we had the 4 hour of Spa-Francorchamps in for European Le Mans Series. Well, we know the Iron Dames are competing in the championship, but we had a couple of lineups changes for Iron Dames throughout the season, both in the European Le Mans Series and in the WEC, in the World Endurance Championship. Of course, we saw Sarah Bovey, Belgian driver, making her debut in Monza in WEC, and then going on to racing Le Mans and getting that top 10. We've interviewed Sarah previously on the program. Now, Sarah Bovey also made her debut in the lineup of the European Le Mans Series. So now we have the same lineup for Iron Dames, both for ELMS and WEC. Sarah Bovey, Michelle Gatting, and Rahel Fry, as you see here on the graphic, competing in the 4 hour of Spa-Francorchamps. Michelle was behind the wheel for the Saturday's qualifying. Her lap time was good enough for a P3 out of a massive field, but unfortunately she had all her lap times deleted for track limits, so they had to start from the very bottom of the field. That was really a big blow to them, to their chances in the race. But Michelle Gatting, we know she is a fierce competitor. She's a great driver. And in the first stint of a race, she was behind the wheel for almost 2 hours. Really, the Iron Dames really extended those first stint. She brought the car up to P3, to third place during her stint. She had a lot of overtakings. She had really an impressive first part of the race. Before handing over to Sarah Bovey, the young Belgian driver really was also doing great in her debut, in the series debut. Didn't make any mistakes. Brought the car up to P1 at one point in class, of course, in LM GTE class. We also remind that Sarah has not that big of experience in GTE cars. she was previously racing in GT3. But Sarah did well. She brought the car up to P1 at one point before the pit stop. Then there was a safety car at one point that really messed a little bit with their strategy, but still they were back to P5. Sarah brought the car up to P4, had a really, really long and intense battle with an Aston Martin for position before handing over to Rahel Fry for the final hour of the race. And Rahel, we know that she's one of the fastest drivers on track in that category. Again, she had an outstanding last stint and was really the fastest one on track. And she passed the P4 car and really closed the gap to the third place car. With 6 minutes to go, there was a huge accident at Radillon, on top of Radillon, as we kind of see a lot of these crashes at Spa-Francorchamps in the previous race weekends. Fortunately, the driver was okay. But of course, there was a safety car, and with Rahel really getting closer to the car in front, they thought initially that their chances to get a podium were over. But the track marshal did a great job in clearing the track, and the race was green again for a final lap, for a one last attempt. Rahel was amazing in the restart, overtook the Porsche, the Proton Racing Porsche, for P3, and scored the first Iron Dames podium in ELMS of this season. They didn't have quite the season that they expected at the beginning of the championship, but the podium is really great for them, coming to the final race weekend of the season in Portimao at the end of October.
Yeah, so we also had Moto E this weekend, which was the last two races of the season, the whole conclusion of the season of the Cup. And we, of course, we always have Maria Herrera on the grid, a Finnish rider that it's her third season of Moto E, so she's been there ever since it's been existent. But yeah, it was a bitter weekend for Maria because after her great memories from San Marino when in the first season of the Cup she was fighting for the podium even, and in the end she finished fourth. This year was very, very tough for her. Of course, after an injury in the other series in the Superbike in World Supersport, she's been really struggling with feeling on the bike. And now in San Marino, she was really excited, but the races, maybe some of you have seen, were crazy because of the accident on the first lap in the race one. Yeah, of course, she couldn't improve her position because it was really a mess after Alexander Zakona, the championship leader, just crashed and was run over by Ukubo, who was riding behind him. Of course, it was a mess in the championship, but generally for the rest of the riders who were riding behind them, they couldn't improve their position too much because the first group just flew away from them. And in the race too, she had some problems with other riders. They were just put off, left by the rest of the group. They couldn't catch up. We still don't know. We weren't find out what was the real problem. But in the end, in race one, she was 13, but in the race 2, which she said that it couldn't be better, she wanted to be better, she was 11, so she still scored points. If not the rear brake problem at the Red Bull ring, she would have been one of the riders that completed every race in the points. But yeah, of course, it was a crazy race, not only for Maria, but also for the championship leader, Jordi Torres and Dominique Agerter were in the fight and crashed on the last lap. Agerter won the race, but then he got a penalty, which promoted Torres to a champion. But of course, Maria hasn't said anything about it because there are different riders saying their opinions. But generally, it's been a hard season for Maria. As we know, she's one of the most experienced riders in this cup. We could have expected her going better, but as I said, that all the injuries, the crazy races, the penalties, just kind of destroyed her positions in every race. But yeah, we will see what's gonna happen next year. Hopefully Maria will still compete in Moto E. That's gonna change its regulations because we're gonna see a qualifying like in MotoGP. So finally, not an equal with one chance, but qualifying just like in MotoGP and 2 races every weekend.
Great reporting, and of course, I don't know if you saw in the chat room a comment from Amber, one of our regulars, saying "Welcome, Julia." Definitely great report. So, and yeah, definitely continue on with our program. TCR Spain. We saw some pretty historic results there at Valencia, site of the second to last race for the TCR Spain. Of course, we've been talking a lot about Michelle Halder, who is racing there all season long. Also competing this weekend, we had Abelcano and rookie Lydia Sampri. Race 1. Michelle Haller finished third after a time penalty due to track limits that dropped her down from second place, taking home third place, the bottom step of the podium, and then we saw Alba come home in fifth place, so a top 5 finish for her as well. That's a pretty exciting result as always. And then the second race, it was essentially a 3-race weekend. Michelle and Alba came home fourth and fifth place, so missing out the podiums, but again scoring top 5 finishes. But this is where in race 3 we saw some big results. Michelle Halder earning another win in her racing career. And then we saw Alba coming home in second place. So it was a female 1-2 finish in race 3. One of the more historic moments, of course, is when you have 2 females racing 1-2, getting the top 2 spots. For Lydia, essentially more valuable laps in her growing experience when it comes to motorsports. Positive season overall when it comes to her debut season. Of course, the young Spaniard racing with a special helmet design system to help her overcome the challenges of driving with bilateral deafness. So, sixth place overall in the final race of the weekend. Very big weekend for Lydia, and of course for Michelle and Alba. Congratulations to them on their 1-2 finish in race 3. And of course, TCR Spain will now tackle essentially their season finale November 13th and 14th in Barcelona. Michelle Hollerdor, she's going to be at Nürburgring for the NLS round this upcoming weekend. So a lot of racing going on. And Daniel, I know when it comes to racing, what are some of the other races you're going to be following this upcoming weekend? Well,
sorry, I was on mute. As I said, quite a lot of interesting upcoming racing this weekend. Not as many as last time, but definitely some interesting ones. We have ARCA Menards Series West racing in Vegas. With quite a lot of female racers this time. We have Amber Balkan, Amber Slagle, Maria Bodro, and Bridget Burgess. So quite some interesting female racers. Bridget, that you, Joe, interviewed last time out at Portland. So quite upcoming interesting talents on the stock car scene. Of course, we know that ARCA is one of the feeder series to the bigger stock cars and NASCAR championships. We also have again the NASCAR tracks with obviously Ailey Deegan and Jennifer Jacob on track. Then also in the United States we will have the Formula 4 US, which is coming back on track since after quite a long pause this summer. And we have Emily Linscott, the British racing driver, coming back on track, and also Chloe Chambers, who is a 17-year-old American driver. Also in Formula 4, in French Formula 4, is racing in Monza this weekend with Angelina Favario. The French 18-year-old racing driver had quite a problems in the budget last time out. So she's struggling a little bit to go to the end of the season, and so she opened a crowdfunding campaign. So we definitely encourage everyone, if you want and if you have the chance, to check out her crowdfunding campaign and give her a helping hand to finish the Formula 4 season. Also in BTCC, Jade Edwards is completing her maiden BTCC championship in the British Touring Car Championship, very popular series in UK. This time out, they will be racing in Silverstone, but not on the GP track, on the national circuit, the national layout. And as you said, Joe, also the NLS Nürburgring Landstrecke series, which is formerly known as VLN, probably most popular still with that name. Quite a lot of really interesting female drivers as well. Let me check out the all the entry list for you. There will be, interestingly, there will be a W Series driver making her debut in the NLS. Sabre Cook, the American driver, will be driving for the first time at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. She had their permit because, of course, to racing in that series, you also have to get like a driving license. So last weekend she was there training, logging some laps in order to get the permit. She did get so she will be racing for the first time in the NLS, this time in a BMW M2. Simona Di Silvestro, the IndyCar driver, will be also racing in the Nürburgring this weekend, together with Janine Schaffner, Chantal Prince, Michelle Halder, as you said, Jasmine Pricing, another very competitive TCR driver, Sophia Gachot, and then, of course, as we already reported, Simona Di Silvestro and Sabre Cook. Then we have more interesting series coming up. We have the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, one of the most competitive single-seater championships in Europe. Of course, Lena Buller is racing full-time in Formula Regional, but also another W Series racer, Belen Garcia, is making her return to the Formula Regional this weekend. They will be racing in Valencia, so a Spanish round for a Spanish returning driver. Belen is really looking for some more experience to bring for the final 2 rounds of W Series later on this season. So Formula Regional, that uses the same chassis, the same Formula 3 Tatus chassis as W Series, and gives her an opportunity to do some mileage in the car. Of course, Formula Regional has 2 practice sessions, 2 qualifying, and 2 races, so double the time in the car as the W Series. That would be really useful for her. And then, of course, we also have Formula Regional in Japan with Ai Miura, a Japanese 31-year-old driver that is joining the series. The Formula Regional in Japan is quite similar to Formula Regional in Europe, but even though they use a slightly different chassis, not the Tatus one, it's the Dome one, which is a Japanese chassis maker. But the regulation is the same. Also, we have quite an interesting series also in Monza. It's the Max Formula. They are using older Formula 1 and GP2 and Formula 2 and IndyCar, also Champ Car chassis. So it's kind of a big single-seaters championship for collectors that bought the cars and are now racing these cars. And so we have Veronika Jaksch, with the driver from Czech Republic. She was most known as Veronika Cicha because before her marriage. Now she's racing in Max Formula. At the beginning of the season, she raced in a Scuderia Toro Rosso Formula 1 car from 2013. Now she's back with a GP2 car. She's doing well in the GP2, quite a lot of experience in that car. And then we also have the NASCAR Mexico with 2 female drivers in the truck series. One is Zihara Esteban, who was third a couple of rounds ago. So quite an interesting series as well. We're trying to follow closely all of these series.
And of course, you could definitely follow all the series on the website Behind the Helmet. Here is a full look at the calendar, everything you talked about, and of course, you can follow live just about every race, see which drivers are competing in each and every weekend. And of course, on the homepage, you can see everyone's reports. They're on all the latest racing, including Julia's report right there on Maria from Moto E. So a lot to check out on the website. I encourage everyone to visit behindthehelmet.com. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I see we got another comment just from Amber saying great show. Definitely, we encourage everyone to subscribe to us right here on YouTube. We're definitely growing up to 264, and of course, we'll have more programming this weekend with Grid Live pre-race, post-race Sunday following the IndyCar race. Won't cover NASCAR since they'll be later, but you can see that recap on Grid tonight. Next Wednesday, then we'll be back here next Thursday for the Women Racing to Win. For Daniel and Julia, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.